What up, Sonic Squad? Today we're doing some Sonic racing. Ready? Let me show you how it's done.
Fan-made Sonic games and the people making them have definitely been finding their way into the spotlight over the past couple of years. From dedicated online fan events celebrating and showing off upcoming projects, and many indie game developers having backgrounds as names in the fan game community. Some even go on to make games inspired by Sonic's gameplay with their own unique spins, such as Freedom Planet and Spark the Electric Jester. You can probably even say that fan games have become almost synonymous with Sonic as a series. People have been making their own games based on the blue wisecracking rat since the mid-90s, and their influence has gotten so strong that it can even be seen in actual releases, especially in the case of Sonic Mania, a project with notable names in the fan game community such as Christian Whitehead, aka Taxman, and Stealth at the wheel. One of the fan games that's been getting a lot of traction again, and one I've been going back to after quite a while recently, is Sonic Robo Blast 2, usually known as SRB2, because, let's be honest, this is not a great name. One of the oldest, if not the oldest, fan game that still has regular updates and an active community, originally releasing in 1998. Late last year, SRB2 received a huge update in the form of version 2.2, giving it a much needed facelift, with the game as a whole reworked almost entirely from the ground up. It brought back plenty of old players, and with how quickly games spread around now, brought in tons of new players as well. SRB2 is a 3D game heavily based on the aesthetics and gameplay of the original 2D Sonic games from the Genesis and Mega Drive, built on a modified version of the Doom engine. Believe it or not, the platformer running on the Doom engine works a lot better than you expect, with multiple playable characters, a full game's worth of levels, a variety of secrets, and even online play with a pretty big array of multiplayer modes, some even having their own exclusive maps. This entirely free game is a pretty big package. And, as expected, because it's running on the Doom engine, custom characters and maps for this game are aplenty, with one peek at the forums showing many being released and updated on the daily, as you can use existing modding tools that were made for Doom, and with a bit of know-how and creativity, make something that really pushes how you can play this game to new heights. And this is when we finally get to the start of this video. Meet Snolf. Snolf, the golf ball, is an interesting little beast, coming to us from Oak Reef. How they work is through the use of a custom script. You now have to play the game as if you were playing an arcade-style golf game, like Mario Golf or Neo Turf Masters. In concept and execution, it's really unique and well made, having very subtle physics changes and even some changes in gameplay, such as showing you how many shots you made on your HUD, and being able to redo your last shot if you get stuck. Snolf, for me, has been pretty fun to learn and even more fun to show off to friends. Then one day, an idea crossed my mind. Can you beat SRB2 as Snolf? Is it possible? Probably not. I tried anyway. Here's what happened. But first, before I start, I'm quickly going to go over how I played this. Because I'm playing a game with a character added via modding, I can't start the game using a proper save file, which means when I die and lose all my continues in a no-save game, I'd have to start the entire game from the beginning. I am not doing that. So, I played in a personal, closed, multiplayer server, which allows me to play the game under normal conditions similar to a saved game. Every time I lose a life, rings, enemies, and hits bosses have taken do not reset between lives, only when the map resets, which is when I game over entirely. Does this make the game easier or harder, especially on bosses? Not really. But I quickly wanted to go over that because, YouTube comments. Anyways, now we can get on to the first zone. Green Flower Zone is your standard Sonic opening stage. Green Hill, Emerald Hill, Splash Hill if you really want to dig, etc. A stage that is fairly easy, yet still engaging and varied enough to teach you all the basics of the game. This also applies to Snolf, with the stages being fairly straightforward, with little to no branching paths and easy enemies. This isn't much trouble. The only thing I can think of is this tunnel, where you can get stuck between the slopes. But as I already mentioned, you can always reset your shots. Also the boss. Unsurprisingly, bosses are much harder when you're trying to fight them as a friggin' golf ball. And I was pretty sure that this is going to be a recurring theme as the playthrough went on. Eggman's pretty hard to aim at considering that he's always moving around after every attack, the laser will almost always hit you, and even more when he goes into pinch mode. You can do it, eventually, and then I realized that even if I do beat the boss, trying to break the capsule is also hard. After a couple of tries I managed to do it and finished the first zone, but I'm scared for what's to come later. Techno Hill Zone has two wildly different acts, with Act 1 being a good segue from Greenflower, and Act 2 pretty much setting up the more open level design that is going to show up for the rest of the game. The biggest gimmick of Techno Hill, alongside terrain such as conveyor belts and these pipes that burst air, which you can mostly just ignore, is this purple slime. When you jump in, you sink to a certain point, and depending on the height that you started from, are then pushed back out. The problem for Snolf is that there's many points that revolve around having to travel between parts of the stage by getting into the slime, moving under an obstacle, and popping up at the other side. You even have to start Act 2 of Techno Hill by doing this. So not only do you have to make sure that Snolf is at a correct height, let alone even get there, but also the momentum to even move inside the slime and somehow make it to the other side. Also, electric floors and enemies with projectiles. Compared to last time, the boss is a little more manageable, mainly because of how predictable the movement pattern is and how compact the arena is. Next on... Yep, it's the water level, and guess what? Despite all the changes to make Snolf more bearable, he can still drown. Fortunately, help does arrive in two ways, in the form of the returning bubble shield, which prevents you from drowning, and does allow you to bounce. Which is surprising since you normally can't control Snolf's movement once you've taken a shot. Another useful shield for this stage is the elemental shield, which is a bit more common. It doubles as a shield from both drowning and taking damage from fire and lava. It also allows you to stomp down on the ground, cancelling all movement, which is extremely useful. The problem, obviously, is not only finding it, but actually holding on to it. However, once drowning is less of a worry, which is very unlikely, you begin to notice some of the bigger problems that come with going through deep sea as Snolf. The key to making things a bit easier for yourself as Snolf is figuring out the ideal route. In deep sea's case, if you know what you're doing, you can get by without barely even touching the water at all, which is what I thought. To cap it all off, the boss is basically the first one, but much worse. With the missiles that home in on you and constantly moving, and there's an electric shock. To be perfectly honest, I mostly wrote this video as I went on, and I really didn't expect this journey to end so soon. Of course, I don't exactly know what I expected from putting the challenge of can I beat a 3D Sonic game as a golf ball on myself, but I would be lying if I didn't say it was an interesting experience. Learning to slow down, be careful with my movements, and figure out how to think outside the box when it came to my route actually made me appreciate SRB2 as a game and its design a lot more. As I mentioned at the start of this video, SRB2 is based on the original Sonic games from the Genesis and Mega Drive, and it's not only in just aesthetics. What made those games great is the variety of ways you can approach the stage, may it be using how characters play differently to your advantage, or finding your way off the beaten path and usually getting rewarded for your curiosity. Yeah, this design mentality is still around in official Sonic games, such as Generations and especially Mania, but I feel like SRB2 in a way has captured that kind of feeling in a way I didn't expect. Heck, after how many hours I've actually put into this game, I still somehow found new routes and secrets that I never saw before until I was figuring out Snolf. And speaking of Snolf, yeah, I still think this is great mod after putting up with all this. Between all the character mods that have been made over the years, Snolf changes the game entirely, and arguably can be seen as one of the most unique characters that have ever been made for SRB2 because of it, and do manage to replicate the challenge and approach the gameplay that the original Snolf ROM hacks brought to the table. And there definitely is a bit more thought that you think into how the gameplay is balanced. For example, the water streams in Deep Sea and the ropes in Arid Canyon still work normally as Snolf, though they do definitely look a little goofy. So good on you, Oak Reef, you get a cookie. To be honest, I actually do see potential for Snolf in the future. With all the levels people make, I could really see something unique that incorporates Snolf by the community in the future, like a level pack that is essentially a bunch of mini-golf courses. I'd definitely use them a lot more if that was the case, and seeing how it's actually possible to beat the original Snolf ROM hacks, I may go back and experiment more with Snolf again in SRB2 stages. In a longer video, maybe a stream? I don't know. However, that still leaves the burning question. Can you beat SRB2's base game as Snolf? No, actually, sorry. Yeah, looking into it more, once you cut out Deep Sea and a good amount of the bosses, a lot of SRB2's base game is doable, if not a bit tedious as Snolf, but you do eventually hit a big blue metal wall in the form of Metal Sonic. At around the final set of levels, you have to race him, reminiscent of his original encounter back in Sonic CD. However, this race is already difficult enough as even the game's regular characters, and by the time you're ready to make that second shot, Metal Sonic has already won, you've accepted your fate, and Snolf dies a brave hero. Happy New Year!